What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks. DJ Buck with you. Buck, what is going on, man?
And then just another fun-filled week of ball. And, we're living in both worlds, right? The college football race is super exciting. It's probably one of the more exciting years of football that we've seen just because of the playoff and all the things that are going along with that. And then we're right at the midway point of the NFL season. So we're beginning to see teams that look, pretenders, contenders, people are falling off. It's already time to maybe look ahead to the 2025 draft. All of those things are in play. And so it's a fun time of year, even though there's a part of me that's really sad because some of the teams that we thought were going to be pretty good have fallen short of expectations.
By the way, are we going to see a busy trade season? I kind of get the feeling that we might see some movement here. There's so many bad teams this year. Like it's odd that we have so many teams that are really struggling. We're going to get into those in just a minute of just kind of maybe teams that have been above expectation and below expectation. But it feels like we have a whole host of teams down there near the bottom, which could lead to some sellers.
It could lead to some sellers, but here's what I would pose to you, DJ. So we talked about it last year at the end of the draft, how with NIL and some of the things that the draft is a little weaker than it's been in previous years. Like the draft really falls off the cliff once you get to the bottom of the fourth round. So now my thing in being a seller, what are you getting back for what you're auctioning off? Are you getting a pick that is really going to be valuable if it's fifth, sixth, or seventh? Or is it more, I don't know, are you better off just saying, hey, you know what? I don't really care about the pick that comes back in 2025, 2026. I just want to get rid of the thing on the books. It's really an interesting time for evaluators and decision makers as they're looking ahead to the draft, trying to figure out, do I really want to accumulate a bunch of picks, or is my desire to get rid of what's on my books more important than what I really get in return?
Yeah, there's the other layer to that, though, right? So you have, well, I can hold on to the guy if they're expiring contracts, and I'll get a comp pick. So I'm gonna have to wait a year, what have you, on that front. But there's also, by getting people out of the building, you create opportunity for other young guys to say, hey, we know player A is not going to be on our team next year. So even though we might pick swap him, and so you can say we're really not getting much. We're just moving up maybe from the 6th round to the 5th round, which is nothing. But we're creating an opportunity to evaluate the rest of our roster, versus throwing a guy out there for the rest of the season that's not going to be on our team next year.
Yeah, it's a really interesting time. And I think it's one of those that's fascinating. Also, we've talked about it because we're now at a point where a lot of our peers, a lot of our colleagues and former colleagues are now making decisions and pulling off moves, which is why I do believe that this generation is more willing to swap than previous generations. You remember how we rarely would see trades in the middle of the season. Everyone was holding on to draft picks and those things. It's a different time now. I do believe more teams are aggressive in terms of searching out and trying to fill needs in the middle of season. We saw Josh Uche go to the Kansas City Chiefs because they're looking for another pass rush to complement Chris Jones and company. The next 2 weeks will be interesting to see how people elect to kind of fortify their squads as they make this run.
And keep an eye out on that, on the pick swap thing, because I think it's we've talked about this earlier this year, how much of a no-brainer it is. If you can, if you're a buyer, I should say, that's what you're pushing for. You're saying, hey, we're not going to give you a 5 or a 6 or a 4 or a 3 straight up. We'll pick swap. We want one coming back our way too. So maybe we give you, it's a better player. We're going to give you a 3. You give us a 5. Something like that. Because at the end of the day, as you've mentioned, the draft has kind of gotten top heavy. So 3rd through 6th, like, I just need a bullet in the gun, man. I just give me a shot at it, whether it's the 5th, the 6th, the bottom of the 4th. Like, I just want to make sure I maintain my number of picks and maybe not be so obsessed with where they're located in terms of day 3.
Yeah. And the other thing that we've seen in recent years, DJ, is you want to accumulate a bunch of picks at the bottom of the draft, so then you can package them together and move up in rounds to get there. People are trading off the bottom part of the draft so they can get valuable picks in the 3rd and 4th round. So if it means that I have to give you 2 5ths and 2 6ths to move up, I'm willing to do that because I'm trying to get that value. And so you want to have the war chest pool. You've talked about it with Howie Roseman, how Howie has always been good about that part of it, making sure you stockpile the war chest in the event that you see something that you want, that you have enough ammunition to make it happen. So it just depends on, from a philosophical standpoint, what do you believe in terms of building your team? And we're seeing a lot of different approaches have a lot of success in this league.
It should frame how you look at the draft and draft day trades, because when you see it just, I mean, the draft is a long affair on day 3. And when we're sitting there in the 5th round and you go, oh, this team traded up 10 spots, and the team that traded down 10 spots got a 6th round or 7th round pick next year. And you think, oh, whatever, Well, then you get to the trade deadline the following year and you see that 6th round pick goes to get a nickel corner that can help you on the back half of the season and help you, go make the playoffs.
And that's what it is. And it's the constant churning of the roster for some teams. And particularly, look, being in Green Bay, Ron Wolf would always make a move down the stretch to help the team make a postseason run. He would always try and find a veteran that he could acquire, that he could just have in the bullpen just in case. And we're seeing some teams do that. Sometimes it's also securing a young player that you want, that you think in your system he can develop and be a valuable contributor down the line. You just want to have the flexibility. And so the trade deadline, having a bunch of picks, gives you the flexibility to make those moves when they come up.
Yeah, man, no question. Let's get into some of these teams that have let's start on the positive side of things. Teams that have exceeded their expectations at this point in time in the season. And I'll give you some contenders here, Buck, and you tell me the one that's maybe exceeded it the most, that's been the most surprising. We can start in the NFC. Obviously, the Commanders being at 6-2.
Let's just stop there.
Yeah, I don't know that there's another one you can put up there.
Look, them. Not only in terms of, there are a few different things that are in play. One, Adam Peters is a friend of ours, and so we've seen him kind of put it together. To see him have his opportunity to run and show, and to see how they've responded right away is impressive. 2, Dan Quinn getting a second opportunity to be a head coach. What he has done from a cultural standpoint to get that team up and going. But let's really talk about where it starts, and that's the quarterback. The fact that they nailed the quarterback in the draft, Jaden Daniels. And I think it's really important that people understand your team will tell you everything that you want to know about your franchise quarterback. When you hear the way that his teammates revere him, the way they talk about him being a legend, a superstar, a franchise guy, all of those things. Well, we're 7-8 games into the season, and they're already putting that on him. And the legend only grows. The Hail Mary has only sent him to the stratosphere when it comes to being a superhero. DJ, it just tells you how valuable it is when you have one of those guys. And what I mean by guys, like, not one that you're manufacturing, like, oh, I think he might be when you have a legitimate guy, it changes the plight of the franchise, and it changes it for the next decade. The Washington Redskins, barring injury to Jaden Daniels, they're going to be in the conversation in terms of being one of those contenders because the quarterback is that special.
Yeah, no, like I was telling somebody the other day, it changes the offense, it changes the team, it changes the organization, it changes the city. One guy. That's the power of that position in this sport.
And I want everyone to go back when you have an opportunity to look at the Hail Mary. I don't want you to look down the field. I want you to look at the effort that the offensive line was making on that last play, DJ. When they believe in the quarterback, the effort is different. I mean, those guys are giving everything to give Jaden Daniels an opportunity to throw it down the field. To me, that speaks volumes about how they feel about number 5 and what they believe that he can do for their franchise.
Yeah, no doubt. When you go through the NFC, the other, I would say the surprise, and you could spin it as a positive, I guess. But when you look at the NFC West, the Cardinals at 4-4, the Niners at 4-4, the Seahawks at 4-4, the Rams 3-4 right there. So, but you look at the Arizona Cardinals, I guess that would be a surprise with them being right up there in the mix, at the very top of the division with the crowded teams.
Yeah, a couple of things when I think about with the Cardinals. One, give Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort credit for really backing their quarterback early. There's a lot of conversation about the Cardinals should move on from Kyler Murray. He's not the right fit for them and those things. Second year removed from the ACL injury, he's back to kind of being the player that we saw early in his career. 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. Even though it's taken them a while to figure it out, the value that he gives them on the perimeter, he makes the offense so much better because you have to respect his ability to make things happen on the perimeter. That creates opportunities for James Conner and others. They're an imperfect team, but you're just seeing the quarterback and the number one playmaker, how they make a difference in setting the table for everybody else on offense.
Yeah, no, it's no question about it. You go over to the AFC, it's tough to find, I would say high level surprises there. I would put the Denver Broncos right there at the top of the list, being 5-3 at this point in time.
Yeah, and my thing about the Denver Broncos, and we talked about this in the run up to the draft. We talked about this quarterback class and how 6 guys were worthy of going in the first round, and Bo Nix and the experience. DJ, at the end of the year, if the Broncos trend to where they have a winning season or they're competitive or in the postseason, it is another, I would say, another sign of evidence that you want a quarterback that has significant experience in college. Bo Nix being able to jump in, handle all the things that Sean Payton wants him to handle as the managerial quarterback, the playmaking quarterback, however you see Bo Nix. To me, it's a testament to the significant snaps that he had in college. Maybe it changes a little bit in terms of the way that we evaluate the position. I want guys who have gone through struggles but have come out on the other side in college, because it gives me visual evidence that they're going to be okay in the pros when it's a little bumpy. Because remember, it was bumpy for Bo Nix for a few weeks, had a little situation with Sean Payton on the sideline, but because he's been calloused enough through his collegiate years, he's able to bounce back and he's able to play at a high level without all of that stuff affecting him negatively.
Yeah, I think also just I know they had the issue on the sideline you just referenced, but the belief of the guy who picked you. And that is one of the interesting things. And what we've always talked about, the different ways teams set it up, who has the power in the organization is, we kind of come more from the general manager has the power. They work in concert with the coaches, but they pick the players. They don't interfere with play time and those things. Coaches, have that. But then there's other organizations where the coach is a very powerful figure. You saw, I guess, with Mike Holmgren. You look at this situation. I mean, there's no question Sean Payton's got all the juice there. So when you do pick a quarterback, when you're the quarterback that gets picked, like, hey, the guy calling the plays believes in me. I'm the guy he wanted. I'm the guy he targeted. This wasn't something that was handed down from upstairs and I got to coach this kid. Like, there's a belief there and there's a confidence, I think, that comes with that.
And it's funny because I was listening to this podcast with Alex Smith, and he was talking about coaches coming either from a negative slant or positive slant. And he talked about how so many of the NFL coaches that he's been around have been so negative. But it wasn't until he really had the positivity from an Andy Reid type that built him up, that showed him how to do it. DJ, it's a real thing in terms of the belief and how we talk about pro athletes and all these things, but they're no different than the guys that play on your little league teams or pony league or whatever. They need to feel like the coach really believes that they can do special stuff. And the people in the building have to have a sense of belief that the quarterback and the player or whatever, we talk about conviction when we make a pick, or conviction when you're scouting, you're selling the pick. Everyone needs to be convicted once we pick the player that he's going to be successful. And our job is to give him every opportunity to succeed. He has to feel that, particularly when you talk about a franchise quarterback or whatever. It really matters in terms of that belief. They have to feel like everyone is rooting for them, not against them, because maybe you didn't see them in a particular round or value or the right guy or whatever.
Yeah, no question. I think, again, you could even say the same thing about guys that are veterans that have been acquired. I think you could see Jared Goff with the belief that Detroit had in him, how that's taken his play to a whole new level. It's a big part of it that doesn't often get mentioned. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We come back a little hot or not on some players. We'll get into who's on a nice little heater right now, right after this. All right, Buck, it's time for Hot or Not, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Looking at some players coming off big weeks, big games. We just mentioned Bo Nix. He would definitely be a candidate. 28 for 37, 284, 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. Great week for him. A couple other quarterbacks I would point out. Matthew Stafford, 279 yards, 4 touchdowns, interception against the Vikings team that is really one of the best teams in a defense people had really struggled against. But Matthew Stafford got things rolling. And just reminding everybody again, if you're just talking about pure talent, it's a very short list of people that would be ahead of Matthew Stafford. Not now, but really in the history of the game.
Look, this dude is terrific. He's going to go down as one of the all-timers, right, in terms of just like the talent and putting it together and those things. And the thing about like Matthew Stafford that you appreciate, I don't think I appreciated the toughness part of the situation. You know what I'm saying? Like just what he's able to do, what he's able to bring, how important that is to the quarterback position. You talk about that all the time, DJ.
Yeah.
I don't know if we give it enough weight when we're talking about the people at the position.
Do you remember in Detroit when I think it might even have been a Thanksgiving Day game when his shoulder came out?
Oh, Jim Schwartz. Yeah, and he's like, I'm not coming out. I'm not coming out the game. I got this.
Through the game winner right after that. Like that it's a crazy, and that's why, again, not to get off track, but like that play is a play I would show to Anthony Richardson.
Okay.
And be like, it's like look at this is what this position is supposed to look like. You can't do that. You can't tap out because you're tired.
And so we reference Steve Young talking about not over my dead body.
Yes.
And we're not talking about literally, but in a way we are. Like your franchise quarterback, like that's kind of what it is. Like part of the reason people really get excited about Tom Brady and Roethlisberger, and even to a lesser extent, Eli Manning, the starting quarterback has to show up and take the ball every week.
Yeah.
Like that's the expectation.
I see with Justin Herbert. He's been beat up the last couple of years.
Every week, the expectation is that the starting quarterback, the franchise quarterback, shows up. Doesn't matter what the situation is, doesn't matter what the team's record is, you go down with the ship. And so when he comes out voluntarily because he's tired, man, it's just a bad look. And I'll be honest with you, DJ, it's hard to shake that. It's hard to shake that in the locker room. You heard former players, you've heard everyone talk about, like, what are we talking about? How can you stand in front of the team when you tap out and the offensive line cannot tap out? Yeah, but Matthew Stafford, the toughness thing is real. You have to have that. It is a prerequisite to being a stellar player at the position. If you're not tough, you have no chance.
I would also give the next guy here a little nod on the toughness, and that's Kirk Cousins. Coming back from an injury is really playing well. 276 yards, 4 touchdowns against the Bucks. Is this something that you think he maintains this year and then can get you another year? So Penix gets 2 years to sit. Do you think that's a timeline?
I think so. Why not? Why would you move on from it? There was something that they saw that made them want Kirk Cousins. There's also things that we've seen, the development of the quarterback, being able to slowly incorporate him into the thing as opposed to being rushed onto the field. This gives Michael Penix a true opportunity to acclimate to the pro game. And people say, oh, you can't get better in practice. I don't believe that. You can't get better in practice. You can get used to the speed and the timing of the game by being around pros every day. You can steal from Kirk Cousins in terms of his preparation routine and how he gets ready to play a game. Man, what a better way to learn than to see a pro do it each and every day, each and every week, to see how he gets ready to prepare. Michael Penix is getting graduate school learning. So if I'm the Falcons, yeah, there's no rush to get Michael Penix on the field. If Kirk Cousins is playing at a high level, you continue to roll with it. You already have that money earmarked. So you might as well roll with it. The way the contract was structured, you knew it was to be potentially at least 2 years. So go with it.
There's a chance we see that situation play out with a 2-year pause in Michael Penix at the start of his career. J.J. McCarthy in Minnesota, that could be a 2-year pause in his career as well.
Why not? Like Sam Darnold's playing great. Now, the thing about Sam
you have to bring him back on a franchise number next year.
Yeah, you have to figure out how do you keep him around. You slap the tag. Like what do you do to keep Sam Darnold around? But why not? J.J. McCarthy's coming off an injury. Yes, you eventually want to hand him the keys to the franchise, but this team is competitive. They're in playoff contention. They're doing good things with Sam Darnold at quarterback. There's not a rush. DJ, to me, this is the luxury that all teams should want. I have a good quarterback with a promising prospect behind him. Yeah. That's kind of what you want. If we think about the collegiate model, where you have like, hey, I got the hotshot senior quarterback, I got a redshirt freshman or a sophomore developing behind him, man, I'm a hint. Seamless transition. That's what you want. You don't want to have to go to the draft without a quarterback. You want to have all that already in the building when you phase out of one and move into the other.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great situation. I'm with you 100%. That was this week's Hot or Not segment, brought to you by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Store more and do more with your data. Try them for free at wasabi.com. Buck, this is that time of year where I feel like you'll start to see, we talk about contenders kind of separating themselves. I always keep my eye on, like, if you're looking at the long term, if we're in scouting and we're buying futures, right? We're trying to look at the teams that have a chance to get it going. Maybe they're not there yet, but they'll get it going. I'm keeping an eye on some of these teams that you kind of know in the locker room, not going to the playoffs this year. But what teams make a push and are competitive and maybe try and get on a heater on the back half to get ready for next year, and what teams pack it up, pack it in, and that's what I'm keeping an eye on. I'm not going to say them. I've got some teams in mind I think might be packing it in, but we'll see here in the next couple weeks.
It's a team that could get on a heater, and this is a surprise. I think it's a surprise that, I don't know, people talked about it, but I'm saying the Cleveland Browns are like a completely different team with Jameis Winston. Like a completely different team. Offense looks different. Their vertical passing game, all of the stuff. And look, he's going to turn the ball over, but there's a different feel. To me, they have a feel that maybe they could get going. Maybe not good enough to get into the postseason, but enough where they have some hope and optimism going into the next year, maybe with Jameis Winston installed as your starter.
Well, the challenge is going to be this, Buck. When we look at the defense,
the money, the quarterback, the money.
Well, here's I'm going to be there this week, and they're not going to care. I mean, Siciliano will care as someone who's calling the games because I get a chance to catch up with him. This is a Chargers defense giving up 13 points a game, best in the league. So this is going to be a quick jury here on whether Jameis and the Cleveland offense, whether it's real, because this is a defense played really, really well. Jesse Minter's good, man. So, he goes out there and they torch the Chargers, then I'll be like, okay, let's see what happens with Cleveland. I'm interested, but that's a tough test.
Look, tough test, but we've seen Jameis. Which Jameis is going to show up? The Jameis eating the dubs, or the Jameis that is turning it over all over the place? It'll be a good one to watch. Give me somebody else. Who else? Who else do you think can kind of get on a heater down the stretch?
Well, teams that you look at, I've talked about the Chargers, and I'm not being a homer, but you just look at kind of the schedule, and they're home pretty much after this week. I think they're home the whole month of November. So they've got a chance to go on a little bit of a run here. I'm still waiting. It's weird. There's some teams you think, they're getting ready to go on a run because, they haven't been playing well and they can all of a sudden get hot. And I'm like, the Texans just haven't been playing well, but they're winning games. So they're at the Jets. That's coming up to Thursday night, right? So we've got that Thursday nighter. They have a tough game against Detroit. If they can get through that, Cowboys who are struggling, Tennessee struggling, Jacksonville struggling, bye week, Miami struggling. Like, then they finish up the season. They got a couple bangers there with Kansas City and Baltimore before finishing up with Tennessee. But we could look up and they could be, 10-2, 10-3 with Houston. It's just, they're a weird team because they're winning, but they're not playing great.
They're not playing great. And that's what's so weird. I will say this. You think about what Joe Mixon has been able to do, the running game, balancing that out, forcing C.J. Stroud to play without like elite playmakers on the outside because Nico Collins, maybe Stephon Diggs, both are out. That could help him learning how to play, learn how to do more with less again, and then get back to being balanced. But their defense is lights out, man. DeMeco Ryans has them.
He's got them
playing. I mean, they're a really difficult team. And at the end of the day, DJ, we can talk about they're not playing well or whatever. They keep stacking dubs. And in this league, at the end of the day, man, the result matters. And as long as they're stacking dubs and then they catch fire right at the end of the season, that's what you want going into the postseason.
Yeah, they've got 5 one-score wins, a lot of close games, but they're finding a way to win them. So that's good to see. We'll see if they get on a little run to close it out. Anything else you want to add before we jump out of here, Buck?
Nah, man, just it's funny to just watching these teams and look, you're hoping already that you don't have people making reservations for the U-Haul and those things, but it's a challenge. DJ, we've been around losing teams, and the hardest thing to do is to keep your guys playing hard when it seems bleak in terms of the playoff picture. And you hate to think after 8 games that is bleak, but for some of them, it's bleak. Doesn't look great.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. All right, we've got a couple more episodes coming your way this week. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. We'll see you next time right here on Move the Sticks.